Hello, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Donny Crandell, and it is my privilege today to be able to offer to you a keynote via video, which is unique for me and probably unique for all of us. It's great to be part of your district conference. I am a chaplain in the Air National Guard, and some of what I want to share with you is going to relate to my experiences there as well as my experiences everywhere. The theme today is that of hope. Hope for a Toastmaster. I chose this theme for a couple reasons. One, I think our world right now with the pandemic and everything else going on with political division is desperately in need of hope. And secondly, because I have been tasked by some military leaders to put together some information and some resiliency training tools that relate to hope so that we can pass it on to the soldiers and the airmen in today's military. In fact, I was sitting in a briefing, actually briefing a couple generals and some colonels, and they were asking me, Chaplain Crandell, what do you think we can do to help our soldiers and airmen right now? What kind of resiliency tools? And I just mentioned this one idea to them. I think now more than ever, we need to be modelers of hope. One of the generals picked up on that and said, I like that. Chaplain Crandell, you now have a new tasking. I want you to put together a memo that we're going to push out to the rest of the military on how to do that. How do we model hope as military leaders, as Toastmasters, as Toastmaster officers? So what you're going to hear today is a very real, practical idea that I have pushed out to the military that I think will hopefully be a blessing and an encouragement to you. We're looking at the word hope. H-O-P-E. There's one main point that each one of those letters in that acrostic really point to. And here's the main point today. Being filled with hope will help you flow hope to those around you and to our world. That's it. Let me say it again. To be filled with hope yourself is what you need to flow hope to a world that desperately needs it. Let's start with the H. The H in the word hope is hunt for the good. That's right, hunt for the good. That means that we have to be intentional, deliberate, on purpose. We have to wake up every day determined in our mind that we're going to find something positive to draw from. Whether it's in circumstances, life events, or in other people, we are going to find the positive on purpose. We're going to be looking for it. Deliberate. We are going to hunt for it until we find it. This is going to be a challenge for us because our human nature tends to want to kind of lean toward the negative and the critical, especially when we're inundated with news media coming our way that is primarily negative. Social media that has plenty of negativity attached to it. Political news that offers a whole bunch of negativity. And our tendency is going to be to want to fill ourselves up with that, which is going to make us negative, and then we're going to flow negativity to our world. So we have to be intentional and deliberate about limiting the negativity in our life and hunting for the positive, for the good, for the sweet, for the kind, for the uplifting, for the encouragement. I like what my sister recently said. She said, you know, Donny, there was a time when I gave 95% of my attention to the news. And it really messed me up. But now, I'm only giving 5% of my time to the news because I want to be informed, but I don't want to be transformed in a negative way. And I'm giving 95% of my time to what really matters. I'm spending more time with my son, exercising, reading, spending more time with our family. And she said, I can't tell you how much more joyful, I am, how much better my attitude is, and how much more fun I am to be around. So she has limited the negative news, and that helps her now to find the positive. To deliberately, on purpose, intentionally go out and hunt for that which is good. That's great advice, sister, because I think we all could use that in our lives right now. I've had many people tell me that they are fasting from social media or the news just to kind of get their spirits regenerated in a positive way. Maybe you've heard the illustration of the hummingbird and the vulture. I love this illustration. I don't know why I didn't hear it years ago. But these two different birds are both setting out to find something distinct. They're setting to find out what they're looking for, and they're looking for two different kinds of things. Let's start with the vulture. The vulture, of course, hovers around the desert hills and the desert mountains until it spots roadkill. That's right, that cottontail or that jackrabbit or that coyote or whatever. And when the vulture spots it, the vulture swoops down and begins to feast on that rotten meat. That past roadkill. Ugly, nasty, stinky, rotten meat. And of course, the vulture flies right over beautiful, colorful flowers filled with sweetness and nectar, pays no attention to it. It's got to get to that roadkill. Past negativity, criticism, meanness. The vulture lives on the roadkill. That's what sustains it. But not the hummingbird. The hummingbird is completely different. It flutters around, flies around, passes right over roadkill stuff, no interest whatsoever. And it just goes to those colorful, beautiful flowers where it can find nectar. Sweetness, goodness, kindness. And it lives off of that nectar for its sustenance. That's what nourishes it. The vulture lives off the roadkill. The hummingbird lives off the sweetness of the flowers. And guess what? They both find what they're looking for. One has no real interest in the other because they're not looking for it. The other has no interest in the other because they're not looking for it. The hummingbird is looking for nectar and sweetness and goodness and positivity, if you will. Whereas the vulture is looking to be negative and critical and ugly and nasty and mean and insulting. I want us to be like the hummingbird. I want us to be that determined, that deliberate, that intentional when we wake up in the morning that we just say, you know what? I'm going to go draw some sweetness from somebody today. I'm going to go find something positive and I'm going to pull that out. Because whatever you draw from will be what becomes part of you. Whatever you put into your mind and your heart, if it's roadkill or if it's the sweetness from the beautiful flower, that's what's going to become part of you, and that is what's going to flow out of you. This came home to me just this last week when I was practicing a speech for our district contest. And I told my wife, I said, babe, I am sick and tired of giving Toastmaster speeches to a laptop screen where I have to look at a timer for 7 minutes. Donny, it still provides you an opportunity to get across your message, and you get to wear your sweats, unless it's a contest. And you don't have to worry about tripping over a stage. My wife, instead of focusing on the negatives, she drew out the positives. And if we can learn to be like the hummingbird and just find the goodness in people, find the sweetness, find the positivity, and then let that become part of us. Let that enter into our minds and our hearts. We will then likely flow nectar to other people. which is a beautiful way to live because the world needs us to be modelers of hope, sweet, kind, able to persevere in tough times, to be resilient, to have something to look forward to be optimistic. Hunt for the good by limiting the negative and intentionally looking for the sweetness, the goodness in people, the kindness, the silver lining in the circumstance, the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the H. Now let's go to the O. If you're writing this down, here it is. Optimism about the future, or optimistic about the future. For this particular point, I'm actually going to share a 6-minute speech with you that will hopefully convey this whole idea of what it means to be optimistic and looking forward to the things in your life. The title of my speech was called, I'm Looking Forward to It. Donny Crandell, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Donny Crandell. I'm sure it's happened to you. Somebody has said something to you at some point in your life and it just stuck with you. Hopefully it was something positive. It happened to me when I asked a friend of mine this question. So Rob, you've been a pastor for a long time. What is it that keeps you going year after year after year? 35 years later, I still remember his answer. Well, Donny, for me, it's as simple as waking up every day and having something to look forward to, something to be excited about, even if it's something small. Fellow Toastmasters, that simple idea right there of having something to look forward to can give you purpose, motivation, and most importantly, hope, which is something our world is desperately in need of right now. This idea of having something to look forward to is alive and well in our 4-year-old son, Kyson. Just the other day, he wakes up and he walks into our room. First words out of his mouth, "Hey, Daddy, who's going to play with me today?" Okay, that's a big concern when you're 4. Well, Kyson, don't you remember? We're all going over to Miss Heidi's house tonight so you can play with Eric. Oh, yeah. I'm super excited. I love you, Daddy. Now, ask him to pick up the toys in his room. I get no love. Remind him of something he's looking forward to, and I get big old bear hugs. This idea of having something to look forward to also works in my job as a military chaplain, especially when I'm working with members suffering from PTSD or having suicidal thoughts. Their suffering could come from a range of things: guilt, shame, or blame from a past trauma, or maybe a horrible breakup, past failure, or just feeling underappreciated. Whatever the cause, their emotions can be so strong sometimes that they feel like the only way to end the pain of what they're feeling is to end it all, which is really, really sad. But that's where this idea of having something to look forward to can be so powerful. Because when a soldier or an airman are doubting their reasons to live, reminding them of what they can live for and look forward to can fill them with hope, lift them out of despair, and save their life. I've seen it happen time and time again with soldiers and civilians. So if you know someone, anyone, that's depressed, discouraged, or in despair, take a minute to remind them of something they're looking forward to in their life. A goal they want to achieve. A relationship they want to strengthen. A hobby they want to become interested in. something they want to fulfill in their life. And you just watch how reminding them of something they're looking forward to, that experience they want to have, just reminding them of it can inspire them with hope and get them through another day, which is sometimes all they need to save their life, is just make it through that day. This idea of having something to look forward to, it can actually be a very practical tool in our lives. And here's how. If we can just follow the example of a woman named Shar, who's a family friend of ours. About a month ago, she was preparing herself for a 2-day extensive back surgery at UC San Francisco. Don't wish that on anyone, to have a back surgery. Before her surgery, I asked her, Shar, how are you doing with this upcoming surgery? How are you feeling about it? Well, I ain't gonna lie, I have some fears, but what gives me hope are all the things I'm looking forward to. And then she pulled out this styrofoam board with pictures and words on it of things she was looking forward to. She called it her vision board. Maybe you've seen one or done one yourself. She started pointing things out. See this corner over here? This kangaroo and that lake and those mountains? That's Australia. As soon as I recover from this surgery, we're going to spend 3 weeks vacation there. And then in this corner of her vision board, there was a lady in a kayak. She said, do you see that lady in that kayak? Do you know who that lady is? Me either. But it's going to be me. In fact, I've already bought a kayak. As soon as I recover, that's where you're going to find me, out on my kayak. At the top of her vision board, she had some more quotes and pictures, but one quote that really stood out to me, it was by Tony Robbins, and it said, always have something to look forward to. Always have something to look forward to. I found out later that it was her vision board with all the things she was looking forward to that gave her the courage and the hope she needed to make it through that back surgery with flying colors. And today, she's healthy, she's walking around, determined to be that lady in the kayak that she pointed out. Fellow Toastmasters, if having something to look forward to can help a pastor persevere year after year after year, and it can cause a 4-year-old boy to want to bear hug his dad, and if it can take a soldier and lift them out of despair and save their life, and if it can inspire a woman to make it through a back surgery and give her the courage to do that, then it can work for you. Now maybe you already have something that you're looking forward to that makes you say, I'm super excited! And you just need someone to hug. Just want you to know, I'm here for you. I'll make a trip to Arizona. I just want you to know that I will be looking forward to it. That's the speech for this point. Optimistic about the future. And just to wrap up this point, this is so important that you do believe we can get back to normalcy. I hope you envision yourself doing the things you did pre-pandemic. Yes, I want to be at a Reno Aces game eating a foot-long hot dog with mustard and relish and onions and drinking one of those adult beverages. You know, those tall Aquafina water bottles? Yeah, waters. You gotta have something to look forward to. That's what brings optimism and will give you hope. Now we're looking at the P. H, hunt for the good. O, optimistic about the future. P, promote success stories. And this is really important. That you find positive stories that build up people, that are helpful, that are encouraging, that offer hope, and we share those with other people. We have to promote success stories. I told my wife the other day, I said, I think I'm going to start an alternative cable news channel. And it's going to be called GNC, the Good News Channel. How awesome would it be if you, the Toastmasters, you guys can go ahead and be the anchors and you can be the journalists for this. Just send me the stories. We'll put it all on the Good News Channel. It'll be awesome. You just go around like a hummingbird, finding the positive, listening for stories of success. And you just draw that, we send them in together, and 95% of our show is just positive news stories that just make you smile and give you hope and lift up your spirit and give you encouragement in your soul. So important to hope are sharing the positive things in your life and the positive things that you observe around you. Let me share a couple of those stories with you. My mom is actually going through her third kind of cancer right now. In fact, she was asked by Relay for Life if she would be the guest speaker at the next Relay for Life conference. And of course she said yes. And as she's preparing her speech, I actually got to help her work on it, but as she's preparing her speech, in there she talks about how she has now had 3 different types of cancer and how much support she had and how encouraged she is now and how much other people can have hope who may be struggling with cancer now. First, when she had me 55 years ago, she had uterine cancer. Had a complete hysterectomy. It almost took her life. It didn't. She survived it. About 15 years ago, she had breast cancer. A huge lump removed, and she's been clean ever since that time. And then a couple years ago, she now has skin cancer on the top of her head. All 3 of these were very serious and of course had us very anxious, and there was a lot of fear there, but she made it through each one. And I've watched my mom tell her story to other people who are fearful of cancer, and I've seen people light up with hope. Wow, you've made it through 3 different times, and it just offers hope to people. That's not to say that we're not saddened by those who haven't made it and by those who are struggling with it right now. But her story actually gives those very people hope that they need. And I love to be able to tell that to people who may be in that kind of situation in their life. On a personal note, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine who's single, 42 years old. And he was asking me, he said, "So Donny," he said, "you've been married now for a little bit." He said, "How old were you when you got married?" I said, "Well, you ready for this? I was 48. 48 when I got married, and 50 when we had our son, Kyson, that one that gives me bear hugs now." He said, "Wow, that's awesome." And he said, "Just think, wow, Donny, you get to be a dad and a grandpa all at the same time. That is so cool." And then he went ahead and offered this little tidbit. He said, "But not only that, Donny," he said, "just about the time you're done changing your son's diapers, it'll be time for him to start changing yours." You know how I responded? "Well, that all depends." Okay, I hope you're at least smiling right now. I mean, if that didn't get a laugh, I got nothing for you. But what it did was it offered him hope. You know what? I'm older, but I could meet the right person. The day could come. There's hope there, even though I'm a little bit on the older side of life as a single person. Just good news stories, whatever they might be. So many things I could talk to you about. Now let me just share one more. As the state chaplain for Nevada, we had a lot of statistics coming out about soldiers and airmen that were testing positive for COVID. Those who were hospitalized or maybe were on a ventilator, or just all the different statistics. And then I asked the question to the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. I said, "Hey, tell me, how many of our soldiers or airmen have recovered who have tested positive?" Guess what the answer was? Chaplain, 100%. So we have a 100% recovery rate in the state of Nevada for military personnel that have tested positive for COVID. Now, that's not to limit or downplay anybody who's gotten COVID or has lost someone to COVID. My heart goes out to you. I think all of our hearts do. But what it does do is it hopefully, for those of us in the military, it reduces our anxiety and gives us confidence that the statistics are on our side. Well, somebody said, well, that's because, you haven't lost anybody to COVID because you guys are all in shape. I thought, okay, you have not come to my base and you haven't taken a good look at my waist size right now, which needs to go down an inch to be able to pass the PT test this year. We have people all the way up to 62 and beyond in the military. So I bring that out just to say it's a positive story of truth and reality. There are so many of those stories out there. And it's our opportunity, it's our responsibility to promote them and to help people be inspired by them. One more story before we move on to that E. There's a family in town here who was set back by the pandemic. Their company is a food truck. It's called Bright's Delights. Their last name are the Brights. And man, they have a food truck with delicious food. If you're driving by our little community, if you're driving by the street there where they park their food truck, you will smell the hot dogs, the hamburgers, and the strawberry waffles with whipped cream and chocolate drizzled on them. You will not be able to drive by there without your steering wheel wanting to turn in there. You don't even have to do anything. Your car will do it by itself. Bright's Delights. Now, the reason they are set up in our community is because they were shut down because of COVID. They made a killing as an entire family. They travel as a family, 2 little girls, husband and wife. They go to big events and they make a lot of money. They do super well. But when this COVID shut them down, they decided to get a local license and set up here in our community. And you know what our community did? We rallied behind them. We put it out on Facebook page and everything else. If you drive by there right now, get ready to wait at least a half hour. There's going to be 6, 8 cars, 12 people deep waiting to order from this family. And it's a great story of taking something really negative and turning it into a positive. Promote success stories of good news. That is a huge contributor to hope. Finally, the E, engage in meaningful activity. Engage in meaningful activity. Let's go over them together. H, hunt for the good, on purpose, deliberately. O, optimistic about the future. Have something to look forward to that excites you. P, promote the positive. And E, engage in meaningful activities. During this COVID time, maybe you've heard stories of different people who've taken this opportunity and really leveraged it into something positive. And we've had to, because the second and third order effects of being locked down or just being in a limited lockdown have taken their toll. As a chaplain, I can tell you that teenage suicides have risen over the last year. Domestic violence has risen. Substance abuse, alcoholism, all of that has shot through the roof. Depression is more rampant now than it ever has been. And there's been a lot of effects of this. Parents have become teachers that didn't sign up to be teachers when they went to college. But now they are, and that brings a lot of friction in the home. We've had to be creative and try and take this negative and leverage it into a positive. But I've heard some stories of how people have done this, where they've taken this negative season and they're now spending more time as a family. They're taking walks that they never took before. They're having conversations that they've never had before. They're painting the house, which is something they never had time to do before. They're actually visiting with other people, maybe from a distance, but they're visiting with other people that they never had time to connect with before. And to be able to engage in meaningful activity is a huge contributor to having hope in your life. The last 3 weeks I've spent in Washington, D.C., and I was there as a chaplain with the Capitol Mission Response. Maybe you've seen it on TV, you've seen us there aiding and supporting the Capitol Police there at the Capitol. And while I was there a couple weeks ago, I was overseeing the Senate side of the Capitol building there. You've got the House, the Capitol, and then the Senate. And I was overseeing that, and we had kind of an outbreak of COVID. We had a whole bunch of soldiers that tested positive that were secluded and isolated in their rooms. So one of my jobs was to call them and do a wellness check. Here's how a couple conversations went. Hey soldier, hey, this is Chaplain Crandell. I'm just doing a wellness check on you to see how you're holding up in your room. Well, Chaplain, I'm going stir crazy right now. I'm tired of watching these kid shows all day long. That's all that's on TV. Man, I got to get out of here. I got to retest so I can get out of here. That was the response of a couple of the soldiers. But then there were others who were engaging in meaningful activity, and I would say, hey, Chaplain Crandell, call and do a wellness check on you, man. What's keeping you busy while you're quarantined in your room? Oh, Chaplain, you're not going to believe it. Hey, I've set up for myself 3 PT times in my room where I'm doing sit-ups and push-ups and pull-ups 3 different times of the day. It's been awesome. I've caught up on all my training. I had about 3 weeks of back stuff I had to take care of. I've caught up on all my emails. And Chaplain, I ordered this new book off Amazon. It's an ebook, and I'm just totally in that right now. And yeah, I watch a little TV when I have a chance, and I FaceTime my kids, and what a difference between how one person handles it and how another person handles it. Engaging in meaningful activity actually can bring you hope, and it becomes hopeful to other people who may be a little bit on the depressed side, the discouraged side, who don't have a lot of hope in their life for one reason or another. And those of us in Toastmasters know that even though we can't meet in person, and we all want to, the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, but because of the situation we're in, there's more opportunities to go to other clubs. This district here is the 3rd district that I've been asked to do an accredited speaker keynote at. And this probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for COVID. So I get to do something meaningful to me, something that I love, and something I've been able to take this negative and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share this message of hope. I know you didn't know me, but you said, I see accredited speakers, Donny Crandell. Oh, that guy, yeah, he might do a decent job, so thank you. There's always a bright side, fellow Toastmasters. There's always a silver lining in the cloud. There's always light at the end of the tunnel if you're willing to look for it and be like that hummingbird that sets out to find it. So let me review. H, you have to hunt for the good and the positive. O, optimistic about the future. Please envision us getting back to normal and you engaging in normal activities. And have things you're looking forward to. Hopefully you're already engaging in those now. P, promote positive things, positive news stories, good things that you hear in circumstances and people on the news, although you're only going to watch 5% of it now. But wherever you see the positive, and as a Toastmaster, tell that story because it gives people hope. And then finally, engage in meaningful activity. And let me offer this one last challenge to you. What if you could take some of the anxiety and fear and whatever else you may be feeling and convert that into doing something for somebody else? It can be something simple. Maybe texting somebody that you haven't texted in a while and just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you today. I appreciate you. Maybe it can be complimenting somebody for something. Maybe it can be talking to a neighbor that you haven't talked to in a while. Just getting out of ourselves and being able to extend ourselves and serve other people and be a blessing to somebody else. That's engaging in meaningful opportunity. As we come to a close today, that one main point I want to remind you of as we wrap this up. Being filled with hope is what will help you flow hope to the world. What you take in, roadkill or nectar, will become a part of you. And what becomes a part of your mind, your heart, your emotions, is what will flow out of you to the people around you, at your job, at your work, your Toastmasters club. So I want to encourage you the best I can today to be a modeler of hope. Hunt for the good. Be optimistic about the future. Promote the success stories and engage in meaningful opportunity, because what you take in, goodness, sweetness, kindness, positivity, will become a part of you. And what becomes a part of you is what will flow out of you. And our world really needs to feed off of your nectar. It really needs to feed off of the positivity and the hopefulness that's in you, so that your life can be a benefit to our world. Fellow Toastmasters, it was great to talk to you. I don't like this camera, but I like the opportunity that it gave me to be able to share with you. I just want to say, have a great district conference. God bless, and I hope to see you all in person one day.